What's up, YouTube? James Baek here. Welcome to a match analysis. I'm going to be analyzing my finals match that I had at the Latin America International Championship that I had with Ashton Cox. And what better way to do it but with the man himself? Introduce yourself, my dude.
Hey, what's going on? Like you said, my name is Ashton Cox, and I just won the Latin American International Championships like
Spoiler.
about a week ago. Yeah, and so as I said, we are going to be analyzing the match that me and James actually played together in the finals. And sadly, it was only a two-game set, but it is still a very, very good set, and I cannot wait to look back on it.
Yeah, so if you want to watch the actual set, because me and Ashton are mainly going to be focusing on what was going through our heads during the game, you can go check it out. I'll link it in the description down below where you can watch a full set and enjoy like the awesome commentary that Aaron and Marcus provided. But right here, this is going to be the thought process of the players behind the scenes. So yeah, let us get started with this team preview, I guess. And I'm really thankful for having Ashton join me in this because I think this is something really unique. I don't think anyone else has ever done this in the past. So I think it would be pretty cool just to see both players' sides of this match.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I know I've seen sometimes like when people will have their own stream set, they'll look back on it and kind of talk what they were thinking about. But I think like hearing both sides of the story and like comparing them to each other, it'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this team preview. So, going into this, my mindset, I think Ashton would agree with me, but I think the game plans, since we did have like about a night to prep, me and Ashton, I feel like we both weren't really thinking about like it was going to be like a team matchup versus team matchup thing. I think it was more of a player versus player because me and Ashton have played several times at events. This is our fourth time playing each other, I believe now.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
we played 2015 Virginia, where I think I took it. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you took it. I had that weird bulky Choppleberry Tailwind Hydreigon, and you had a
Yeah. Oh
crazy
no.
sweet
This is our
game.
fifth time. This is our fifth time.
Oh yeah. No, we did say that we'd played before this event that we had played four times before the event. So this is five now.
2015 Virginia, I took that. 2017 Hartford Regionals, you took that.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then we played two times in 2018, one time in Toronto, one time in Roanoke, and I took both of those sets. So this was our fifth round.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so me and Ashton have played a bunch. We've also played like some games in off tournaments, so had some practice games against each other. So, yeah, it was really more mind games between players, I think, than team matchup because I think this team matchup, I don't know what Ashton's opinion on this, but in my opinion, it was going to be pretty much an even team matchup based on our sets.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that coming into this match, depending on the items like you were saying, depending on the sets that you have on your side, it can either be, in my opinion, it's either 50-50 or it can potentially be in the Tornadus Kyogre team's favor if they have the Scarf Kyogre, but since you did not have the Scarf Kyogre, I'd say it was at probably 50-50.
Yeah, I agree. Especially since you told me Payapa Berry Amoonguss would have probably made my matchup a bit better, but since I didn't have the Payapa Berry, made it a bit different. So we'll discuss our thought process between this game one idea that we had that we formulated for game one right here. So Ashton, take it away.
All right, so typically when I see the Tornadus, Xerneas, Kyogre teams in team preview, whether they are these same six Pokemon or some variant of it, my usual go-to lead is Toxicroak and Xerneas, because a very fun fact is most people run the Focus Sash on Tornadus, and so their game plan is to have that Tornadus around to deal with Toxicroak and then not be able to, and then be able to use their water moves very freely against my team. But so my go-to is usually trying to Moonblast and Feint to KO the Tornadus. So I knew going into this, just based off of the matchup alone, not thinking too much about what had happened yesterday, or I mean, the day before you versus Jeremy, that my best lead in general, if I forgot about that Tornadus Kartana that you led, would be Toxicroak Xerneas. And so going into that, I was thinking, well, the Toxicroak and Kartana worked very, very well for you, but we both know that. So I think I might want to be leading something along the lines of maybe like Crobat or Incineroar or something like that. And it was kind of funny because we had talked before the set, and I don't remember exactly what we said, but I think you said like something like, oh, how funny would it be if we both led Incineroar Xerneas, as it's the only thing, it's the only kind of like mirror we could have. And I was like, oh yeah, what a weird lead, who would do that? And I was like actively at that moment thinking about like how I would lead that game too if I took game one. And so I knew going into it that I probably wouldn't see the Tornadus Kartana come out game one, so I felt pretty safe to go with Toxicroak Xerneas, even though I brought Incineroar in the back just in case I saw Kartana in the front. But that was my thought process going into game one, is they fake out pressure with the added pressure of you really need to get rid of Toxicroak, so I don't get to just click Poison Jab and absorb your Kyogre's water moves. Felt threatening enough.
Alright, so my thought process for this match was I thought, like, I knew the original game plan that you, Jeremy, and Steven had were Toxicroak Xerneas. So I was really surprised when I faced Jeremy in top 4 and he ended up switching it completely up with Lunala Toxicroak. So, and it was working out for him, I think. I think if he just played a bit differently, like, it could have actually worked out for him. So I was like, okay, maybe he'll try out the Lunala Toxicroak lead game 1, and if that doesn't work out for him in this game 1, then game 2, like, he'll switch it up to Xerneas Toxicroak. I don't think he's going to lead Xerneas Toxicroak right away, just because if I do lead the Kartana plus Tornadus, it would have been really difficult for you to do something, because like I could just knock off or taunt the Xerneas, and Toxicroak can't exactly get a big knockout right away. It can fake out one, but like I'd be able to shut down the Xerneas preventing it, and that would buy me a few turns. So
yeah,
my game plan was against Toxicroak Lunala, and I thought about this, like, it came up to my mind randomly because it's a play that I don't really do. I thought, okay, what I could do is lead Kartana Kyogre, because it covers a lot of the options, and if I lead Kartana, I'm hoping to bait you into attacking this Kartana, because I know you are probably going to be forced to target on this Kartana. It's a really big threat to your team with knockoff onto Lunala, knockoff into the Xerneas, get rid of power, as well as it's just great because it outspeeds most of your members and can threaten it offensively. So I'm like, okay, if I do lead this, I can bait maybe a double attack into Kartana with like a fake out / feint into Moongeist Beam from Lunala. And if he does that, I could go Amoonguss right there, red card the Toxicroak out, and get a water spout off. And what this allows me to do is either if Xerneas comes out, I get to get a free KO onto that Xerneas slot and break the Shadow Shield, and that's probably just good game right from there. If Incineroar comes out, I break the Shadow Shield on Lunala, get rid of Incineroar, so that means my Kartana and Amoonguss would be freed up afterwards. So that was my game plan for game 1 if you did lead that Toxicroak Lunala. And yeah, that was basically what I thought in the back of my mind.
Yeah, well, an interesting thing about that is the reason that we actually went Toxicroak Lunala is because going into the set, the limited amount of time that me and Jeremy had to talk about it, he actually thought that you were going to be going Amoonguss Xerneas,
Okay.
or Amoonguss in some kind of fashion.
Yeah.
So the thought process is we really wanted to have immediate offense versus that Amoonguss that we don't have if we don't lead Lunala. And so once we realized that there was a low chance of you leading Amoonguss, we pretty much made sure Lunala was in the back most of the time.
Yeah, I saw your replays against Riley, Jeremy versus Riley, and how I think he like led Amoonguss Xerneas both times, game 2 and game 3. So
yeah,
I didn't exactly want to pull that out because I didn't exactly like how that matchup looked, like how it was like gonna go otherwise. So yeah, I wanted to keep Amoonguss in the bag just in case, because it could have been used as a pivot.
Yeah, well, it's kind of if you're thinking of leading the Amoonguss Xerneas, it comes kind of down to if I lead Crobat or not. Because if I do, Crobat versus Amoonguss Xerneas is not known to end well for the, Amoonguss Xerneas. But
yeah,
if I don't lead Crobat, then I'm pretty much in a mediocre spot from the beginning. But it's such a toss up that most other leads seem a bit safer.
Yeah, the only thing I just knew you wouldn't bring in this game, I didn't think you would bring this in the set at all, was Crobat, because I think Crobat was just like a Pokemon that just got shut down by Tornadus, and the only move you really had to hit me was Super Fang, and I don't think that would have really helped if Crobat was because it took away such an important slot. I felt like you needed Toxicroak, you needed Lunala, and you needed Xerneas. If you don't bring in Incineroar, you're kind of weak to the Kartana.
Hmm.
And I could have seen you brought Smeargle, like, just for, like, the Focus Sash, follow me, like, buy yourself some turns, maybe a Lovely Kiss, or, a Fake Out turn, plus, like, a Moody shenanigans. So, yeah, I didn't expect Crobat to be brought into set at all.
Yeah, if anything, I think it may have been like a game 3 adjustment. You know, like we've both taken a game, and I was thinking, okay, well maybe now he leads among Xerneas. That'd be like probably the only time I'd bring it, honestly.
Yeah, I was never gonna bring Xerneas Amoonguss lead, dude. I remember you picking really quickly, and then it was like, I think I took some time because I wanted to play that mind game.
Oh yeah,
Because I knew
yeah.
what I was going to bring.
I most of the time my thought process with the team preview is if it's like a game 1 that's not in cut, I'll usually take the entire time. But typically for me, at least in game 2 and 3, I'll lock in like incredibly fast because I've probably been like, you know, thinking about what you're going to bring for the rest of the time. And so instead of like second guessing myself, I just try to either make them think I'm bringing the same thing, or maybe I am bringing the same thing and I just want to show that I think it's the best and I don't think they have an answer to it. But
Yeah.
at least in this game, I just knew what I was bringing and I wanted to start playing, so I stopped overthinking what I was doing. Honestly.
Yeah, I do the same thing, to be honest, where like I'll take the time and play the mind game with the opponent, even if I am going to bring the same thing. I'm going to play that team preview mind game, and I think it's a really effective mind game that isn't really explained much in high level play, but I think it really happens a lot, and a lot of people just don't actually know about it.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, well, it may seem like, you know, he just locked in fast, but there's a lot that goes into it, in my opinion.
even
Once you,
locking fast could be a mind play, because it's like, oh, maybe he's bringing the same thing again, or maybe he switched it up completely different. Like, there's so many mind games that can go in a team preview.
yeah, it's kind of weird. I know I do it to people all the time, but I don't think anyone's ever like gotten me where they've locked in super fast and I've thought they're gonna bring the same thing and I was wrong. Because most of the time, if someone, I don't know, this is just like personal experience, but whenever I've had somebody lock in fast versus me, they've actually always almost brought the same thing. So I don't know. I think it'd be, I've never actually had it happen to me, but I feel like it would be really like devastating.
Alright, so here it is, turn 1. Ashton, what was your thought process for this turn 1?
Well, coming into this turn, it was quite odd because versus Paul Ruiz in top 4, I knew that his Kyogre was timid and that he could outspeed me. So I really couldn't safely Geomancy, but knowing that you were modest coming into this set, I was thinking, okay, well, the best thing he can do here is Water Spout. That's his strongest attack. So as long as I fake out Kartana and I Geomancy, I should be okay. I mean, I will be taking a lot of damage, but the amount of damage won't be so much that I, you know, won't be able to take another attack followed up by that Water Spout. So really turn 1, I didn't see much risk of just faking out Kartana and going for the Geomancy, so I locked in super quick with that.
Yeah. So this turn 1 was already looking pretty bad for me. This is my thought process, right? It's like, alright, he pretty much can just fake out card, go for a Geomancy, and there's not really a big way I can stop it. I know Water Spout versus your Xerneas will probably do around half, but then again, I'd be like vulnerable to a Moonblast with either target the following turn. So it's really a really tough mind game here, because I'm trying to figure out what I can do, because I'm thinking I could go Amoonguss potentially, because if I go Amoonguss, here's the thing. If I go, I know you're faking out the cart 100%. You're not faking out the Kyogre, because you can't afford like your power up getting knocked off, or a big Smart Strike that does like 75% to your Xerneas gonna go off. I'm thinking there are multiple plays here. I don't think I stay in the cart ever. I could go Amoonguss and red card, but the thing about red card is I wasn't exactly sure this was going to be optimal, because like if I red card your Toxicroak, right, and you get in Lunala, that's kind of very problematic for me. But then again, Water Spout with a 2 KOD, and I could just Rage Power Water Spout. But I was worried about like you sub-stalling and or just sacking or getting.
I think if I went into Lunala and you had Amoonguss in the field, I probably would have just Psyshocked Amoonguss and substituted. But
yeah, I think I would have Rage Powder Water Spout at that point.
yeah,
I don't know what the Psyshock roll was against the Amoonguss at the time, but like I wasn't exactly sure. I didn't want to risk it being a knockout, and I thought it'd be in a pretty bad spot regardless. So I'm like, okay, and if you get instant, you just get to go a Toxicroak the following turn, and I think you just get like a free fake out plus substitute off, and there's nothing I
Yeah.
can really do about that. So my thought process, okay, maybe the water spout damage into Xerneas will be enough to where I can send out Tornadus now on the fake out, and then I could Tailwind and then somehow bring in card, and then I could Smart Strike to Xerneas because water spout will put you in -1 Smart Strike range. But now that I'm looking back at it, I think the Amoonguss play was more optimal for me because I forced a lot more pressure now. Because I did switch into Tornadus eventually. But yeah, I don't think that was actually the best play. I think the best play was going Amoonguss, and Red Card would have actually kind of helped there. I was worried about Toxicroak coming back in if Incineroar got sacked there, but I think that wouldn't have been that bad for me actually now that I'm looking back at this. I think my game plan was like getting Tornadus in, Tailwind, and then taunting it so Kartana could come out. But you just had like so many free opportunities just to go Incin there. I guess like the substitute play was like what was confusing me the entire time.
Yeah, well, the getting Kartana and Tailwind play makes a lot of sense because I think once you do that, and especially if your Kyogre is still alive, then you just kind of click Water Spout, Smart Strike, and I don't have any Pokemon that switch into that.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand the thought process, but just the momentum I was able to get in the following turns kind of threw a wrench in.
Yeah, after I realized my mistake, I think I was like downhill. So if you want to continue watching, I mean, it's literally you just fake out Geomancy as I Water Spout switch into Tornadus. Cause like there was no reason for you not to make this play. Like this was your best play no matter what, and even if you like predicted this, like it doesn't really benefit you that much. The risk versus reward wasn't worth it to you, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was kind of afraid of a Water Spout crit, but I was at the same time I was sitting there and I was like, okay, but that's kind of a dumb thing to be concerned about. Is if that really is what ends the game, then it's not my fault. I didn't, misplay because I didn't expect a crit.
Yeah, especially since I don't think like risking like this early in the game. I think you don't care. You don't really worry about crits as much right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do go for the Water Spout. I switch into Torn. Water Spout does about half. Yes, it does. So this turn, it's turn 2. It's like, what was going through your head here? Were you really happy to see the play? That, like how good Water Spout you were?
Well, I was thinking at this point, I didn't think you had Amoonguss. I really thought that you had Xerneas. And so looking at this, I went, okay, well, Faint Moonblast should get me a KO on everything. Kyogre, the Xerneas, the Incineroar, maybe Kartana, and if it doesn't KO Kartana, that's almost all of its HP, and I still have pressure. So I looked at it and I was like, the Amoonguss play did never actually go through my head. Because like I said, I didn't think you had it in the back. But as I saw it switch in, I was like, oh no, it's red card, and I was like, wait, I fainted. Okay, never mind, that's good.
It's actually funny because I asked Amelia like a week before the event, does Faint activate red card? And when he told me yes, I was so disappointed because you know how like Faint doesn't activate rough skin or a rocky helmet.
Oh, it doesn't?
It doesn't.
I didn't actually know that.
So I was like, please don't activate red card, and it does. And I was like, that kind of sucks, but that's whatever. So yeah, my thought process this turn, there's no way you're not going for Faint Moonblast and the Kyogre. It's so free. Tornadus isn't really that big of a threat to the boosted Xerneas right now. Like the worst is like a Hurricane Confusion, and that's like super specific. So
yeah,
and I feel like you could potentially substitute here, but I feel like there's no reason not to Faint Moonblast. You get a KO onto the Kyogre slot if it's not the Amoonguss coming in, and it's if you do attempt to sub and I just go for a Scald, let's say, trying to sack my Kyogre, you're in a bad spot. So I know you're just gonna double up the Kyogre slot, and there's something you can do to stop Tailwind. So I knew I could just get Tailwind up. I could have potentially seen a play where you like switch out your Toxicroak, go out into Smeargle or Incineroar for fake out, but yeah, I thought you would just Faint just to guarantee Kyogre going down to Moonblast.
Yeah, I did cross my mind to go back out and into more fake out, but then I was thinking at the same time, well, you could protect, and then if you do protect Tailwind and I attack the protect and get in a different Pokemon, then you suddenly have this Tailwind pressure that you didn't have before and all your Pokemon. So I really just was thinking, okay, if I get a KO, then it's just a piece of the puzzle that you don't have anymore. So
yeah, I understand. I'm like, at this point, it's Amoonguss gonna be I have to go Amoonguss here, and this isn't really looking good for me because I know Moonblast is probably going to be a 2 KO since you're like modest max special attacks Xerneas.
Yeah,
So
it's so powerful.
yeah, so you faint me, activates my red card. Unfortunate. Imagine if it didn't activate red card, but you get red card out into Incineroar, I think. No, Lunala actually, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
Lunala.
and I'm like, oh, this is like the worst spot possible for me.
Yeah,
At least,
I've got my two most offensive Pokemon versus your two like most supporting Pokemon.
yeah, and right here you could potentially even just Moonblast Psych Up right here. And I was like, I could taunt one, but then I can't pressure the other. Yeah, at this point, like, I'm trying to figure out a game plan that's even possible for me at this point, and I'm like, I don't think there's a way out of this, realistically.
Yeah.
If it was Incineroar, I could see myself getting out of this. But since it was Lunala coming in, I'm like, this is not good. Because, again, I have to either taunt your Lunala to prevent a Psych Up, or I taunt the Xerneas so I can Smart Strike it. Because if, let's say I taunt your Lunala, right, and you KO my Amoonguss, and I go into cart next, right? Because it's the only thing that can outspeed Xerneas. You just get Incineroar and it can just protect. So I'm like in a really bad pin spot right here.
Well, one of the main things that I thought going to this turn was, I know you're gonna probably taunt one of my Pokemon, so the Psych Up kind of goes out the window because I don't want to Psych Up into a taunt right there. But the other thing I didn't really want to do was I didn't want to just Moonblast Amoonguss and Moongeist Tornadus to give you a double switch. So I felt like if you got a double switch, then I couldn't even safely switch Incineroar in on your Kartana there. So really, the main reason for what I do next turn is I was thinking, okay, well, I know I can KO Moongus or something that switches into that slot. So I just want to get in a Fake Out Pokemon this turn. So even if you taunt my Xerneas, then next turn I already have that Fake Out that I need to protect my Xerneas.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I feel like you could just go for Psych Up there anyway, because even if it doesn't work out, let's say you do get the double KO, right? I mean, you go for the Moongeist beat Moonblast. You could always just go into Toxicroak, and I can't even KO it, and then you have Fake Out Pressure, and then you can Moonblast the Kyogre, and then it's like, you have, you could just stall that Tailwind pretty easily, and even if, like, I crit Toxicroak, like, twice for somehow, like, you could just get Incineroar, and then you have Fake Out Pressure once again, so it's like, no matter what, I don't really like my position. I'm already thinking about game 2 at this point.
Yeah, there were a couple of different ways for it to go, but I think no matter where it went, I just had a lot of boosts everywhere, and I just had to utilize them the right way.
Yeah, I think what I do is I taunt to prevent the Lunala from Psych Upping, and I think I went for that play because I can't really remember. So let's see what happens. Because I remember at this point, like, I was already, like, thinking about game 2.
Okay. So, yeah, I think I go Incineroar or I go Toxicroak. I don't quite remember. I was thinking of going Incineroar just to you know, absorb a taunt. Because I was thinking it'd be funny if you taunted into a dark type. But don't know if that's what I did.
I think you went Toxicroak. I think you did. You go? No, you did go Incineroar actually. Yeah,
because I was thinking if you go Kyogre, my Xerneas is still faster, or if you go Kartana, I can at least like U-turn out for a chip onto it into my Toxicroak.
Oh no, I know. I did taunt to Xerneas because I. Oh yeah, now I remember. It's because like I thought you could potentially sub as well. Like I thought you were gonna sub Psyshock there as well. Like that was another play, and I thought you were playing mind games with me, and I thought the cycle was like really obvious. So I thought you were gonna sub Psyshock, expecting the cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Now I remember. Yeah, because it bought you an extra turn with your Xerneas. Now I remember.
Yeah, I still feel like there were so many plays that could happen.
Yeah, there were so many plays, but most of them really benefited you, and none of them like got me into a super solid position regardless.
Yeah, like the Amoonguss slot was basically useless at that point, and the Tornadus had to do like 3 different things, but it could only do one of them. So.
Yeah, I think this turn was pretty standard. I think I risked my Tornadus right here. I switched Tornadus out on the card and just protect Ogre right here. I think you just Moonblast and U-turn for momentum. Yeah, that's what you did.
Yeah, I was thinking that the worst thing that happened was you Hurricaned my Xerneas, which may 2-hit KO with the boost. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't think it did.
I think it did actually. Yeah, I think it did. But I didn't want to risk that. I thought I could get card in, and it was like a 50-50 whether you fake out or you go for U-turn. Like, I knew you were probably going to U-turn, but like at that point, I think this game was pretty much over regardless.
And I mean, did Tailwind? No, Tailwind is not.
No, I had one more turn Tailwind, which is why I made the card play. And this game was over because you brought in Toxicroak.
Sure.
You brought in Toxicroak, and you legit just fake out and Moonblast. Like, I think I go Tornadus here, but it doesn't matter because you knock out my Kyogre. The Moonblast was a roll, and I had to hope for like a low roll and maybe Scald knock out Xerneas if I wanted any shot of winning this game. But yeah, you just OHKO my Kyogre, and that's the game from there. Yeah, because I don't even know if Scald knocked you out. Probably not. No way. Water Spout didn't.
Yeah, Water Spout did exactly half, so I don't think
I would have probably needed a high roll and a burn, because I think a Water Spout I got like a mid roll. Yeah.
Yeah, that did seem low to mid. Definitely wasn't high.
Yes.
So I think I had 10. I think actually I had like 100 out of 202 is what I had.
I think you had 100 or 102 looking at the number, but yeah, at this point this game was over because now you just get to click Faint Moonblast in the Kartana. Tailwind was expired. And yeah, this game one was like, I was like beating myself up on the inside for not going Amoonguss turn one, because ironically it would have kind of played out similar. It would just be, your Xerneas was healthy, and yeah, so not exactly the best game one for me, but I felt like game two was something I could look forward to because I think I had better leads that weren't like so. I guess I went just really in on this lead expecting the Lunala Toxicroak, and I just paid too dearly for it. But I think I actually had outs now that I'm looking back at this match. Like, I looked back at this match before, and it was like, I realized I had so many outs.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the things I think most people watching won't understand too well is it really is like such a different mindset when you're on stage like that. Like, yeah. There are some things that, you know, they'll seem so perfect, and you won't even think twice about them, and then immediately you'll be like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? Like, I had such an obvious other play that was always so much better. But
the player is like in a really high pressure set right here. I mean, this is finals. This is for my first international. This is for your second international title. I mean, it's crazy how much pressure that can be input, and like one small mistake can cost you the entire set.
Yeah, well, it's like once you get down to those single elimination matches in the top cut, everything matters like so much more than in Swiss, you know, where you can afford to take a loss or maybe even two and still make it in. But I think it's just a lot. It's just a lot, honestly. Like a lot of plays may seem kind of dumb or inexcusable, but I think if you really think about like what goes into being on stage and playing in the cup matches, it changes how the game plays.
All right, you want to talk about this team preview for game two? Like, you obviously probably felt really good that you locked up game one. I mean, I think that's really huge, especially when it's more, again, this player versus player more than team versus team, because now you're more in control of the mind games that can occur in the set. Like, what was your thought process going into this game two and the team choice you picked?
Well, one of the things I thought is, like I had said, before the set even started, like, I woke up that morning, you know, I showered, I walked out, and I was like, Jeremy, I know what I'm doing. If I win game one, I'm leading Incineroar game two. Like, I literally said that. I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing if I win game one. And, you know, obviously I wasn't like, oh, I'm totally going to win game one, and this is exactly what I'm going to do. But I was thinking, it was in the back of my head, that if I won game one, due to you not leading Kartana Tornadus, then you would recognize, you know, because I know you're good, and you'd go with the team. So you would see the team and what I led, and you'd say, okay, well, there actually isn't that much drawback to me leading Kartana Tornadus, because like, there's no way he would just lead Incineroar into the Kyogre I led game one. So there's probably a very low risk of leading the Incineroar or the Tornadus and the Kartana. And what I was thinking is, well, even if he leads like Kyogre and Kartana again, like you did game one, I still had the option of like faking out the Kyogre, and you would get a Smart Strike or a knockoff or something, but I was thinking it was kind of a mind game on whether I geoed or subbed. So like worst case scenario, I got it down to like a 50-50 mind game.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very confident you would lead Kartana and Tornadus.
Yeah, so I could really respect that. Like, I thought it was really smart. Here was my thought process. I was like, okay, that didn't go how I wanted to, but this game too, I'm gonna feel a lot better. I think I'm gonna go with the lead that, like, when I was building this team, like, and prepping team matchups, your team obviously came up in one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
My original game plan for Protect Zern is Tornadus plus Cortana, just because like I could always double pressure to Xerneas because it can't exactly go for like Geomancy because I always have to knock off and taunt pressure. And I knew that this was super obvious, but like I didn't really see a big way you can punish it. I thought you might lead Incineroar, but I was like, even if you lead Incineroar, I don't think it's the worst case for me because at worst I could play a mind game with him. With Kyogre and what I do with Tornadus. So, yeah, that was my thought process. Like, I thought about bringing my own Incineroar, but I was like, even if I bring my own Incineroar, because let's say you let Xerneas plus Toxicroak again, I do have the Roar option, which was something pretty big. I think it could have worked. Like, I could have let, like, Incineroar Card or Incineroar Tornadus. I think both of those would have actually worked really well. But,
yeah.
I think I wanted to save Incineroar for Game 3 just in case, because I felt like it was a really good tool for Game 3, because I thought maybe you wouldn't expect in the Game 3 situation. I just brought Tornadus card, and I think I go Kyogre and Xerneas in the back, because it worked against Jeremy, and I thought, here's the one thing, I always wanted to bring Kyogre, and like I was talking about this matchup with some friends overnight, and it was like, a lot of their game plans for this team, like me facing you, was like, don't even bring Kyogre, right? And
really,
yes, and like their game plans were like set up Protect the Zern, and yeah, I felt like it was all right, but I really didn't really like that because there were two reasons. One, I didn't have good ways to check your Incineroar otherwise, because I thought you would probably bring Incineroar, right? Maybe not in a Game 3 situation if I was able to force it, but I thought he would probably bring Incineroar Games 1 and 2 at least. And the other fact is, Tornadus, no rain means I have to rely on 70% accurate Hurricanes, and when I'm probably going to have to use Tornadus to at least get one Hurricane off to break either Shell Shield on Lunala or hit the Toxicroak. I really think I do need rain in this matchup, so I think I do have to forced to bring the Kyogre. It helps in against Incineroar, so it's not the worst case, and it still does like 50% to Xerneas if you're like playing passive. So if you're Geo, so yeah, that's the main reason. And then I bring Xerneas just because like it's pretty much my biggest damage dealer to Toxicroak otherwise, and yeah, I think that was basically what I had to go.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I think even though I led Incineroar into the Kartana, it still wasn't even that bad of a position for you.
Yeah.
Like, even though I did that, you still had like the turn one, like you were saying, all of those things to pressure my Xerneas. Like, sure, Incineroar was in a good spot, but now my main win con is just not in a good spot right there.
Yeah, and if you don't set up Xerneas, you're in a really bad spot, because if I get Kyogre under Tailwind, like you don't have a switch in other than like Toxicroak or maybe Lunala, but Lunala can't switch into 2, and everything else just goes down. So yeah. All right, so it's all right down here. Okay, so I see the Incineroar Xerneas and I lead Tornadus Cortana. What was your thought process from this lead? Because you obviously expected this lead.
Yeah, well, the first thing I thought was, okay, well, if I fake out either of his Pokemon, the Geomancy, it seems like I'll be able to get it off because, yeah, you've got a -1 Kartana, and you've got a Tornadus that if I fake it out, you can't taunt me. But then I was like, well, I think his play is to like knock off or maybe Smart Strike and taunt, so doubling the Xerneas slot. So I was like, okay, well, I think my play then actually is just to U-turn out into the Toxicroak to have a second fake out and go for Protect, because no matter what happens, I'm not really losing anything from that turn. I feel maybe it was a little too safe. Maybe I could have gone on the offensive a little more with like a knockoff or something. But I think U-turn just gained me. It was going for momentum, which I was just trying to get a little bit of at the beginning of this game.
Yeah, I'm so glad you actually mentioned the U-turn because the U-turn actually didn't cross my mind right away. I thought your two plays were either going to be Fake Out or Flare Blitz right away because, like, here I'm like, you probably aren't going to Geomancy. It's actually funny because, like, I've played this lead matchup hundreds of times. Like, this is probably the lead matchup I probably had the most experience with. And most of the players actually do go for like a fake out geomancy, and I'm like, okay, I know Ashton. I know Ashton is really good at this game, so I'm like, okay, you really shouldn't go for fake out geomancy because I don't think that gets you too much. I feel like the best play here is either you protect or you just hard moonblast, but I feel like you would protect because you would want to save your power herb for later in the game because I feel like getting geomancy up with Xerneas in this game is super important. So I'm like, okay, I think he might try to just go for the Flare Blitz in the Cortana because let's say I double up into the Xerneas and he goes for Protect Flare Blitz in the Cortana, then I'm in a pretty rough spot after that. So I'm like, okay, I think my best play here is just to go on a Kyogre and Tailwind because I'm very confident he's not just going to Geomancy. It's like more of an instinct and player versus player here where I feel like this is what Ashton would do. So I'm like, okay, if I can get the momentum by just going to Kyogre, I feel like I do gain a huge advantage here by just going to Kyogre and Tailwind because I feel like it's just very unlikely you would Geomancy here and allow me to either taunt or knock off here. I feel like at worst you're going to Moonblast and Flare Blitz or Moonblast and Fake Out.
Yeah, the taunt was really smart. The taunt didn't I mean, the tail was really smart. The taunt was, I was very sold on like you taunting. I thought maybe you'd switch out, maybe you would knock off, maybe it's smart to strike. But I was, throughout all of that, I was almost incredible. Like I was almost 100% certain you'd be taunting. So when I saw you tailwind, you can even see me like visibly react to it. I was like, oh, I forgot. That is actually a really good play. That got me. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just slipped my mind or something. But the tailwind wasn't even a consideration when I was going this turn.
Yeah, so I think it like really worked out for me because I mean I just got a lot of pressure with Kyogre afterward, and yeah, I think that was just beneficial. But I really like the U-turn play once again, as you said, because it never crossed my mind you would U-turn. So I think it kind of worked out both ways, where we kind of forgot like, oh, there's this option, like even though like it seems pretty obvious, like it didn't really cross our minds as much. So you get to bring out the Toxicroak here, and it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, what do you think about this position you're in?
Well, after I had this secondary fake out on the field, I was thinking, okay, well, I know that he has so much damage here, so I can't let him go for a strong attack. So I definitely have to fake out Kyogre. There's no way I don't fake out Kyogre. Then I thought for a second, and I was like, well, maybe I go Incineroar with Xerneas, I guess. And that was just, it like crossed my mind for a couple of seconds. I was like, maybe I fake out Incineroar. That way I can like fake out low kick to Kyogre. Then I was like, no. That's just weird. That's not worth it. So after that I was like, okay, well, I think I actually go for Geomancy because if I get the Geomancy off, the game just ends right there pretty much. Because, you know, if I get the Geomancy, I'm faster than Kyogre. Tornadus can't really hit me, and there's just so many things that having the Geomancy puts in my favor. So I was like, okay, well, even though he can taunt, and even though it's just basically a dead turn, I think I'm going to fake out Geomancy anyways. And so I went for that.
Yeah, I mean, here I was like, fake out Moonblast and a feint. I don't think it would knock out Kyogre. I think I would hang on with a Sliver. So, and I really just can't let you get a Geomancy because if you do get that Geomancy, as you said before, I think you would just be able to win the game. So I think I'm just going to make the obvious play here and just taunt because at the worst case, again, fake out a Moonblast. I don't think feint would knock out my Kyogre after that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to taunt at the worst case because I know Toxicroak's probably just going to fake out my Kyogre because like I still think your Xerneas would either go down to A, Water Spout, or B, would be in range of Hurricane anyway, so you would be really threatened. And next turn I could just like Hurricane your Xerneas and just switch out into Cortana because even if you switch out to like your Incineroar for Intimidate, like I still pressure the Xerneas with 2 attacks. So either way, I was completely fine with that. At this point, I was just trying to prevent Xerneas from setting up too early and just trying to weaken the rest of your team. So I felt like no matter what, my play was just really safe overall.
Yeah, I think the play was really safe because I do feel like your end game versus my team with your team is basically try to chip everything and then get your Kartana in under Tailwind, or maybe even not under Tailwind if I don't have a Geomancy up, and then just kind of start picking up KOs after I've taken a little bit of chip damage. So even though neither of us were really getting any board position this turn, I think the taunt is a very good way to stop me from getting board position.
Alright, so after this position, I feel like I'm the one who has the upper hand. I'm threatening a lot of damage into your slot. I'm basically threatening a knockout, or just like maybe a knockout or a lot of damage, or potentially just like a lot of damage on both Pokemon. And I feel like I'm in a really upper hand because I know you can't lose Xerneas, because Xerneas is one of your ways to win this game, because you kind of need Geomancy up just so my Kyogre under Tailwind won't completely decimate you. And also, it's like a big damage dealer to the Kartana, and it's just a safety measure. So here my thought process is like, what are you gonna sack? Because Lunala's not your choice here. It would go down to probably Hurricane into Mystic Water Scald, or Water Spout, since Water Spout probably is more powerful here. I'm like, okay, so my options are either A, KO the Xerneas. I KO the Incineroar coming in, because I'm pretty confident you would sack Incineroar here, and either Hurricane the damage for a lot of Toxicroak. But the problem is I wasn't sure if Low Kick and a Feint would knock out my Kyogre at this range, so
yeah,
I did kind of want to avoid that pressure. So I'm like, okay, what I could do is like I could double up Toxicroak, but Incineroar next to Xerneas, I guess that would be a bit problematic. But I'm like, okay, I'd still be under rain. I still have taunt pressure. I could just threaten a Water Spout into your Incineroar and your Xerneas and prevent Geo from going up. So I guess it wouldn't be too bad. And I know that Kyogre probably survives a fake out into Moonblast at this range anyway, and I still be in a pretty good spot regardless. So overall, I think just double up your Toxicroak, which I know isn't probably switching out here, because Toxicroak doesn't exactly have a safe switch out either. So I'm like, okay, I'll just get rid of Toxicroak. I'm sick of this double fake out. I want to get a KO, and yeah, I think getting rid of Toxicroak here is better than getting rid of the Incin right now, even if it would free up my Kartana. Like, I just don't think it's worth letting Xerneas potentially set up later.
Yeah, well, going to the turn, I was thinking, like, I mean, it did cross my mind for a second that maybe the play was to switch Toxicroak out into Incineroar, but that was such a hard read predicting you not to Water Spout, because, like, you could Water Spout Hurricane the Xerneas just for a KO, and then if I went Incineroar on that, then I looked like a fool. So I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. So I just kept Toxicroak in there, and I ended up going Incineroar because I figured you were either Water Spouting, which would some HP, and it would still be alive, or maybe you double Toxicroak. And I actually thought I lived, but now that you mentioned it, I probably do go down to that all the time, if not most of the time. So I think it was really smart to double, and I definitely wasn't. I didn't think you'd go in on that. I definitely understand why you did it.
Yeah, I think there was no reason not to double up there, and even if I kept your Incineroar around, I think it would be alright for me. Just because as long as I got the momentum I needed by getting rid of Toxicroak, like, I think my Xerneas is a bit more freed up in the end game against you, especially if I'm able to break your Shadow Shield with your Lunala.
Yeah, definitely.
So this turn, you switch into your Xerneas here. You have Fake Out Pressure with Incineroar. However, I am still under Tailwind, and Kyogre is still threatening either massive damage or a big knockout here. So what's your thought process on this turn with Xerneas Incineroar versus Kyogre Tornadus?
Well, I had noticed how safely you were playing. Like you had said, you were really going for the taunt or trying to lock down my Xerneas as much as possible. So I was like, okay, I don't know how much Hurricane does exactly to my Xerneas, but I'm going to assume it does less than half. So I think my safest play is just Fake Out and Moonblast the Kyogre, as it's the last turn of Tailwind, and if I can put that Kyogre and Moonblast to it KO range, then it frees me up so much going into the next turn. And I was thinking you probably would taunt, or I'd be okay if you didn't taunt. So really, I thought that all of the time my play is to double the Kyogre here. And I'm actually curious, now that I think about it later, I don't know why, but I felt like you wouldn't protect. Why did you not protect here?
Protect the Kyogre?
Yeah.
In case you read, because it was like if you fake out Tornadus and you Geomancy here, and if I protect Kyogre, I do lose.
That's true. And maybe a Water Spout wouldn't have KO'd me, so maybe that was an optimal, or maybe it was a potential play for me, but I did actually think that my Zern would be going down if I didn't protect.
I wanted to Water Spout just to cover like you doubling up into Tornadus, or again making the hard read, and I just don't think I could have allowed you to get momentum. Like, sure, you could fake out Moonblast. It wouldn't KO Kyogre here at this range, I believe. So I was like, you know, I might lose something, but it's not like I lose the entire game based off that, where one wrong read literally screws me over. So,
Yeah.
And yeah, this turn I'm like, I go for Hurricane and Xerneas. The reason is like, you've seen how safe I'm playing against Xerneas right now. The only real risk I took was turn 1 of this game, and at this point I'm like, okay, what I could do here, you're probably just gonna fake out Moonblast here. You weaken the Kyogre's Water Spout damage anyway, even if you don't get it. So it's like, Taunt is pretty obvious for my Tornadus, and Water Spout would either A, KO your Xerneas, or just put it into really low. So I'm like, I don't think you Geomancy here. There's no really point of your Xerneas Geomancy, and even if you Geomancy, like, I could just Tailwind get in a Kartana anyway the following turn. So I'm like, right here, what I do is I could just Hurricane the Xerneas, because what I want to do is I want to try to put it in range of Kartana's Smart Strike later in the game, because I think if I just get the damage off of the Xerneas, I think it's puts on more pressure than what a knockoff could do later in the game. So right here, I'm just weakening your Xerneas for like my own Xerneas in the back. If I can get a Geomancy up, trying to put you in range of +2 Dazzling Gleam. And again, I really just don't expect you to go for the Geomancy in this position. Even if you do go for Geomancy in this position, like, I'm not in the worst spot possible, because I could always just Tailwind and get out Kartana somehow.
Yeah, well, I think the Hurricane damage put me in Smart Strike range, even if I was able to cycle Intimidate, because one of the things is like, if you did not get a Hurricane off before I got the boost, or if I ever potentially got the boost, I think a -1 Smart Strike would not be able to kill me. But especially because this does as much damage as it does, I'm fairly certain to put me into -1 Smart Strike range. So I think it was a very good play, just to make sure that no matter how much HP I ended with, I would always be able to be finished off by something you had in the back.
Yeah, that was like a big thought process there, and I felt like as long as I weaken your Xerneas, I should be good to go in this game regardless. Yeah, and I was like, again, I was going more on instinct here, but I again just didn't think you would Geomancy here based on how I was playing earlier. So yeah, I thought you would try to capitalize and try to just weaken the Kyogre. So Water Spout, I can't Water Spout sweep you because I can easily get another Tailwind up later in the game. Okay, so yeah, you fake out Moonblast, didn't KO my Kyogre. It was left on a sliver of HP. If I remember right, it was like 3 HP. Let me know what your thought process is going into this turn, because it doesn't seem really good for you at all right here.
Well, one of the things that I was actually glad about, I was very happy that the Moonblast did not KO your Kyogre, because if you were to have gotten the free switch into Kartana or Xerneas I did not know you had yet in the back, that would not have been so hot for me. Like, if you... I think having you stuck in Kyogre kind of put me in a spot where my Incineroar was very free. But I think if you got a free switch there, you could either have had a Kartana that wasn't intimidated, or you could have had a Xerneas that was quite free to go for a boost.
And I could just taunt your Xerneas.
Yeah, and any, like, if you got a free switch there, I believe the game probably would have just ended, and I wouldn't have had much to do there. But the fact that you lived allowed me to not only target down that slot and probably get a KO, but also to U-turn out on your Tornadus, not only putting it in range of one of my other attacks from, like, Xerneas or Lunala, but also giving me a free switch out into Lunala. So what I do here is I go for the Moonblast on Kyogre just to finish it off, and I U-turn out to try to get in my Lunala so that if Kartana comes in, I can somehow position myself around with a re-switching into Intimidate, or I wasn't sure if you had Xerneas in the back, but I was thinking more along the lines of a Moongus. If a Moongus comes in, I can have my Psyshock on the field just to start doing damage.
Yeah, right here I'm like, okay, Kyogre living is pretty useful, because this means you can't really, if you Geomancy here, let's say, like if you do attempt to go for Geomancy for some reason, expecting my Tailwind, What that means is I get a Scald into your Incineroar slot, so I'm like pretty happy because you can't really exactly Geomancy plus save Incineroar, or if you do save Incineroar, I just get like your Shadow Shield's broken from Nala, and then Kartana can come in and wreak some havoc. So I'm like, I'm in a pretty decent spot right here. So my thought process was, okay, I could probably just get a Tailwind up because even if you Geomancy, like I had 3 turns of Tailwind to work with, I get Kartana in for free, and I'd be in a pretty good spot. Like I was thinking maybe I could protect Kyogre, but like what's the point if you just Geomancy with Xerneas expecting my Tailwind protect play, because that would be pretty bad for me. So my thought process is even if I lose Kyogre here, as long as I get Tailwind, I'm in a pretty good spot because let's say you do Moonblast to Kyogre, and let's say you attack with Incineroar. Let's say you go for the knockoff in my Tornadus, for instance, to try to put in range of anything else. I just get my Xerneas in for me. I just get to click Geomancy, and I get to click Taunt, and I don't think there's like a way you could actually punish that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't. I still at this point didn't know you really had the Xerneas in the back, so I wasn't playing too much to that. But a lot of the plays do make a lot more sense now after I had found out that you had it in the back, like the game plan you were going for.
Yeah. Alright, so you turn out your Lunala, which was not what I was expecting. I'm like, it's kind of problematic here because the Moonblast is actually a roll on your Xerneas if we both boost.
Yeah.
And Lunala can Psycho Pressure me, so I'm like, what do I really do? Do I taunt the Xerneas or do I taunt the Lunala? And my thought process is, I boosted the Lunala is a lot more problematic because of the fact that Kartana won't... it would really threaten my Kartana more, and at least like if Xerneas is boosted, I could go for the roll with my Xerneas just in case. So I was really confident you would actually just Geo and Psych up here. So I think I just go for the Taunt and the Lunala, and I do go for the Geomancy with my Xerneas because maybe I could go for like Dazzling Gleam, Hurricane in the Xerneas, that would pick up the knockout, or maybe I could just Moonblast the Xerneas and Hurricane the Lunala and break the Shadow Shield for Kartana to come in.
Yeah, well, I was thinking here that I could Geomancy. At this point, I was not thinking of what your spread on Xerneas was. As we see later in the match, I do remember actually what your spread is and go for a play that only would work knowing what your spread was. But I wasn't thinking about that at the time, so I was like, all right, well, I can't really Geomancy, because if I Geomancy, he Moonblasts and KOs me. And that's kind of the end of that. So I was thinking, okay, I'll go to Incineroar to have Fake Out Pressure, and there's no way I Psych Up, because there's totally a taunt coming. So I ended up going for some Side Shock damage here, and it does a lot less than I was expecting.
Yeah, so I didn't actually expect you to switch out your Xerneas there, but I was like super happy to see this because like, oh, you didn't get up the Geomancy, so now I don't have to go for like a roll or something, and I prevented your Lunala from psyching up. So like, I'm in a pretty happy spot. With the taunt up, your Lunala can't protect, so as long as I am able to break the Shadow Shield with like Dazzling Gleam or Hurricane, I should be in a really good spot right here. So I do get the Geomancy off, and I actually really wasn't expecting the Side Shock here, but now that you brought on Incineroar, it does make sense here, because like I feel like I should always taunt the Lunala, and maybe you do expect that here, which you did, so yeah. But I think it was just a safe play, because like the taunt covers more than just a Psych Up. It's like setting me up for a better position later, specifically trying to KO that Lunala.
Yeah, well, especially for this next turn, I was thinking, it kind of sucks that I can't Psych Up here due to being already taunted. But for this next turn, having Incineroar and Lunala on the field versus the Tornadus and Xerneas, I knew that the Fake Out Side Shock would be very threatening into the Xerneas slot. And I was thinking that you probably want to protect it, as you cannot deal with both of these Pokemon on the field. Because I knew that Moonblast wouldn't be carrying Incineroar, so I was like, okay, well, I know he can't deal with both of them, so if I Fake Out Side Shock, he's going to lose his Xerneas in 2 turns. So there's probably a Protect coming out. But I don't want to commit super hard and double the Tornadus with like a Moongeist and a knockoff or something to just do a lot of damage to it.
I think
so
that would have actually lost you the game, actually, now that I think about
it.
it.
Yeah, I thought it probably would.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I think his play is actually to switch Tornadus into Kartana, because if he gets Kartana in next to his boosted Xerneas, he can like Dazzling Gleam knockoff, KO my Lunala, and I was pretty certain the game would end after that. As Dazzling Gleam probably two-shot Incineroar and finished off my Xerneas. So I was like, I was really, really afraid of you just protecting, because Protect would stop any damage, and I couldn't even Psych Up. And going to your Kartana, because you had 2 more turns of Tailwind. So I was like, alright, well, I'm going to Slash Shock Xerneas anyways, just in case. And I guess I'll Flare Blitz the Tornadus here. And with what you did, it ended up being a very scary turn for me. Though the Protect was what I was expecting. But
yeah, so my thought process was like, okay, this is an interesting spot, but I think I fought myself into a really good position. Again, it's funny you called the Kartana play, because I didn't think you would actually call it a Kartana play, but I'm like, I could theoretically switch out a card here. But I was worried about you predicting the Xerneas to Protect. Like, I think you always fake out the Xerneas no matter what. Like,
yeah, unless I'm going for that crazy read, I think I always
and
fake
even
out
if you go for that crazy read, I'm not sure how much it benefits you. Even if you fake out Torn.
I think if I thought Torn was staying in, I would have faked out Zern, but I thought Cart was coming in, so I Flare Blitz.
Yeah, I was thinking about going Cart here, but I was like, there's a chance he does fake out the Xerneas and goes for like the Moongeist Beam and the Torn, and I'm like, I really don't want Cart to take that extra damage. I wasn't exactly sure if Moongeist Beam's a roll. I don't think it is on my Kartana, but right here I'm like, okay, let me think about this. If I go Cart, he doubles up Xerneas, I do win the game, but I'm like, Ashton's pretty smart, and he kind of knows I've been playing kind of safe throughout this entire set, so I could actually aggressively see him double up the Torn. And I'm like, if he does double up the Torn here, I get a free switch in a Cart, like as you said. Then I get to click Dazzling Gleam, Sacred Sword, and I think there's nothing you could do about that, because it covers your Zern switch, it knocks it out, right?
Yeah.
If you stay within Sin, Dazzling Gleam and Sacred Sword knocks you out. And if you do sack Xerneas right there, you get Sin back in, you get Fake Out Pressure, right? But then I just knock off your Lunala and Moonblast something, and you can't really do anything about it. So as long as Xerneas can take 2 hits, I'm in a pretty good position. So I'll just throw off a raw Hurricane, and this is where the taunt comes into play, because like I wanted the pressure into the Lunala slot with the Hurricane, so I could knock it out with Moonblast if I wanted to. And I was kind of more worried about the Lunala more than the Incineroar at this point, but looking back at it, I think I could have also just Hurricaned the Incineroar. Like, I was told about this play afterward, and I think it does make sense. I think I could have targeted down either one slot. I thought, like, if I just Hurricaned the Lunala, it was just better for me in general, because then, like, Kartana's knockoff is a guaranteed KO, even at -1. Whereas if I do Hurricane the Incineroar, it could be, like, rolls and, like, Sacred Sword stuff. So, yeah, I decided to Hurricane the Lunala and just Protect here, because I don't think there's a really big way you capitalize, unless maybe you just like fake out the Tornadus for some reason and you side shock the Xerneas, but I feel like that is like a super situational play, and I don't think you would go for that.
Yeah, I don't think that there were a couple like plays to be made that turn, but I think most of them were most of them wouldn't be gaining enough momentum, or they'd be way too neutral for that to really gain anything out of the turn. So I think we pretty much both went for close to what we would have been our most optimal play.
Yeah, and seeing the Flare Blitz was interesting too. I was like, are you really going to rely on the roll for Xerneas? And at that point, I guess I had to go for the roll, since I couldn't actually get a knockout either way. Since this is like the only blind Hurricane I actually had to hit in this this game. I'm not going to say set, because if we did go into game 3, I might have had to go for blind Hurricane, right? It's, again, potentially.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I think I just go for like the blind Hurricane anyway. And since it missed, like, I'm just put in a terrible spot. Like, that was like the worst position. Like, if you got rid of Torn, I was in a good position. If I had the blind Hurricane, I was in a position, but obviously I can't really complain that much of a blind Hurricane, so I'm like, whatever. It's like, I pray for the high roll now into Incineroar, or I pray for maybe like a confusion or something to get me back in this game.
So after I took that Flare Blitz recoil, after hitting the Tornadus for basically what seemed like the only damage I really did was to myself, as I don't think the chip really mattered on Tornadus in the end. But I looked at my HP, and it was funny because someone in the Twitch chat was actually like, wow, way to go, you put yourself in Moonblast range. Like, I thought it was quite funny, because that's what I was thinking too. I was actually thinking about like switching out into Xerneas and trying to recycle my fake out and whatnot. But then I remembered that before the event, we were actually talking, and you had mentioned that you were not only a timid Xerneas, but you actually didn't actually have max investment on your special attack. So I was like, okay, well, I know that I live a modest Moonblast sometimes, and I know I take a timid Moonblast all of the time. So maybe if I just stay in and I go for the Flare Blitz Psyshock on the Xerneas, I can just kind of win the game if he misses the roll on Incineroar. So I know that may have not been my most optimal play, but I do live on quite a bit of HP. So I think it might have been the lowest roll possible there, but I think I had a pretty good chance of living that. So I feel pretty good about my play that I made here.
So I think it was like your only play, right? You couldn't really sack anything.
Well, I don't think that I actually ever did win if I switched out to Zern. But
Oh,
if I
yeah,
wasn't,
yeah. So I think you had to attack. Like, you had to stay in attack.
Yeah, so once I realized that I had a chance to live, I think I always stayed in.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because I remember you telling me what speed your Incineroar was. It was like Saturday. You told me how much speed you ran into your Incineroar. I'm like, okay, if you run that much speed in Incineroar, you have a little less bulk than the standard Incin, which means Moonblast might be doing a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I have to get the high roll or I have to get a Hurricane Confusion if I get a low roll. Like, I have to hit a Hurricane and get a Confusion. So that's basically my out. It's actually funny because I did the calc, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got the lowest roll possible. It was the lowest roll. Yes, I got the lowest roll possible. Yeah. I had 5 out of 16. I'm looking at the calc right now. It's 5 out of 16, I think. Right? There are 16 damage rolls.
Let me pull up my spread, because I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think you're like 236, 220 or something like that.
I'm 236 HP, 212 special defense. Obviously, careful.
If you're 212... Hold on, does that change anything? Okay, I had a 6 out of 16. So that's like a 31.3% chance.
Okay, that's not that bad, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, yeah, at that point, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go for the highest roll possible. If I get it, I do win the game, and it's pretty much my only out. I can't really double attack Lunala. Maybe I could go for like a Moonblast special attack drop, but I'm pretty sure Flare Blitz would still finish me off with a -1 Psyshock at the range I'm at. Actually, it might have been close. Actually,
it would have been very close. Yeah, I mean, because I'm 4 attack Incineroar, I think it definitely would have been. I think you actually would have lived. Yeah, if you got the Moonblast special attack drop, it would have probably lived too.
Yeah,
I think that's about the same % chance you had as carrying the Incineroar, so it was kind of a toss-up on what you were going for.
Yeah, and I thought I was gonna have like I thought it was gonna be like at the range where I thought I was gonna be like around the 40% chance to KO range, like 40% chance for me to KO. So I thought like Moonblast was still my optimal play in your Incineroar, and like at the worst case, go for the Hurricane Fusion, hope it works out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out exactly in my favor. You're able to get the knock on my Xerneas. I get to go cart, and you know, it might not technically be game over, but like at this point, it's like this turn is where probably it decides it.
Yeah, I think this was the last turn in the game where it could actually be swayed, because you could either Sacred Sword here to KO my Incineroar, you could knock off to KO my Lunala,
or I could Smart Strike your Xerneas switching, but yeah, so why don't you explain this process? Because I think it's like a bunch of mind games here.
I think all I was really thinking going into this turn was, okay, I'm going to go Xerneas, and if he gets the read right, KOs my Xerneas, then I will get the Incineroar back in, and I can go for the fake out into the Moongeist Beam onto Kartana and try to get that roll.
Yeah. And
even if I don't get that roll, you still could only KO one of my Incineroar or Lunala with your Kartana. So I was just kind of hoping that rolls went in my favor.
Yeah.
If you got the read right, then. If you did not get the read right, I was thinking. Actually, don't remember what I do. Do I attack with Lunala or do I protect?
I think you attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So I was thinking. Minus. Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking that the play I would go for is, I wasn't 100% confident, but I was fairly confident you'd be Sacred Swording, because if you didn't, I didn't think that Hurricane would KO, so if you didn't Sacred Sword, you just kind of lost. So I was thinking that if I get the Moongeist Beam onto the Tornadus, then my Incineroar plus either of my Pokemon will beat the Kartana. So my big game plan was just to get the KO on the Tornadus and then get the Incineroar back in and be able to fake out and set up, or just fake out and attack and then be able to win the game from there. So my game plan was pretty straightforward because I didn't feel like there was too much you could do.
It's actually funny too because like my thought process was actually very, very different. So my thought process here is like, all right, Ashton should know that I'm gonna go for Sacred Sword, right? Like if I Sacred Sword, I think you're actually in a pretty bad spot because I think at that point you would probably lose the game, or like it might come down to 50-50. But I feel like
it would be another 50-50 at that point.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I feel like he switches out into Xerneas, right? But I'm like, do you expect me to do that? Like, it kind of is obvious you switch out into Xerneas potentially, right? Because saving Incineroar for the fake out pressure against a Assault Kartana could be really good. So I'm like, does he risk everything here? Like, he could go for Flare Blitz here, risk the game, as maybe I go for like a knockoff of Lunala or Smite Strike his incoming Xerneas. So right here, I'm playing mind games with myself. And, like, here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, if you go Xerneas and let's say I knock off the Lunala and let's say I miss a Hurricane there. Like, you could actually, wait, no. What I was expecting was you potentially protect Lunala. You go on to Xerneas because then, like, let's say Xerneas gets knocked out, you could go for the fake out Moonguy Spin. That's like, that's what I was expecting too. Like, could it possibly happened? Or you were potentially like, you could go for like a Xerneas protect as I go into Lunala. Then next turn you protect Xerneas. No, you don't protect Xerneas. You Moonblast Moonguy Spin my Kartana. That way you could get out your Incineroar and fake out Moonblast again, and that'd probably just knock out my Kartana. So my thought process is like, okay, there are like multiple options if you get Xerneas in, but he might actually risk it all with his Incineroar because like the Sacred Sword is the obvious play. I feel like he would go on as Xerneas, but I could really see him risking it this turn right here by going for the Flare Blitz. And if he Flare Blitz the Kartana, it's like game over where yeah, maybe the worst case, maybe I can go for again a Hurricane Confusion or Lunala at that point if you do attack. Because if I am able to get a Hurricane or Lunala or hit two in a row, I would just KO your Lunala at that point. So yeah, I do risk it here because I do mainly just expect your Incineroar to stay in and go for the Flare, but it's you making the aggressive read here. I don't think there was like, even if I Smart Striked, I think again you get the fake out Moonguy Beam and then I'm in a pretty bad spot regardless.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. I think you were thinking a lot more than I was this turn because you had so many options, and I really just had to say, okay, which one of his options do I lose the least off of? And I feel like it was a lot easier for me to put that in perspective than it was for you, because like you kind of had to pick and choose like how you closed out the game. Where for me it was more of like, how do I feel I just don't lose the game really? Which though they're you know, though in concept they're the same question, I feel like they really had different answers from both of our sides. So for me it was more of a, okay, I really just don't think I just don't think that he Smart Strikes tonight. Xerneas or knockoffs my Lunala, and I know I picked my moves pretty quickly, even though I knew there was probably a lot you were thinking about.
Yeah, I actually really like it too because I feel like again it does cover. Again, it was like I was trying to think that, right? I was like trying to expect what's the play that is like safest for him to like win the game a majority of the time, right? And I thought you would pick your least viable option in order to mind game me. That was like,
yes.
Because we've done this in the past. Like we've actually done this in the past in our previous sets. So I'm like, do I predict him for the obvious or do I predict him to go for the least obvious? And I guess this is wrong, but like I have no regrets about this play. I really don't. I felt like it was a player thing once again. Like we've been talking about this entire set. Like it's gonna be a player thing, right? And yeah, this was like definitely one of those moments I felt like. So yeah, I Sacred Sword, you go out into Xerneas, and that's pretty much a game because you do knock on my Tornadus, and now you have the Incineroar. You have 3 opportunities to attack Kartana, and that's like, yeah, I can't live more than 2. So yeah, that was the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I actually just thought about it for a second. I think the way to word it, how interesting that last turn was, is there really is you have three options. You can, Smart Strike, Sacred Sword, or Knock Off. And it's interesting because I have also three options, but depending on what you're going to do, two of my options work and one of them loses. So no matter what you pick, I just have to pick one of the two options that works and not the one that loses. So I feel like even though technically you could say it was like a 50-50 mind game, I basically had like a 66% chance to guess the right option there. So I did feel like I was in a better spot there, just in the mind games position.
The 33% chance was me targeting Lunala, right? With knockoff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically, yeah. So I felt like my play was pretty solid, as it had probably the highest chance of working in my opinion, but
yeah, I felt like also like I could have hurricaned your Incineroar, right? Because I think it would have been a roll potentially, but like again, I didn't want to risk the Flare Blitz because I thought you were gonna go for Flare Blitz, and now that I think about it, if I do, it probably covers both my plays, right? Because if I knock off your Lunala and I hurricane, like your Xerneas coming in, you're in a pretty bad spot after that. Because I'd get the Beast Boost, and then I just get to Sacred Sword your Incineroar and taunt your Xerneas.
Yeah, well, I do just think that was like the last turn that decided the whole game, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, I think overall it was a really good set overall. Like, this is why you don't try to rely on blind hurricanes. It was funny because game 3 I might have not brought Kyogre. I might have actually went Protected Deer with like Kartana, Tornadus, Incineroar, Xerneas, or I might have brought a Moongus over the Tornadus. I'm not exactly too sure, but like my game 3 plan was like I think I was actually gonna lead Incineroar, Xerneas. Actually, I did want to ask you this since I think it was pretty theoretical. Like obviously I could have won this set potentially, so I want to know like what your thought process was. Like if we were to go into game 3, like what would you potentially have brought, and how would you approach that?
I think going into game 3, for me the way, and obviously I'm not in the mindset I was then, but from what I'm remembering, my idea is the reason that if I'd lost game 2, the reason that I had lost would be because I didn't get my Xerneas set up. So personally, the way to fix that is usually if I really just want Xerneas set up, I bring Smeargle. So I'm not exactly certain what order I would have brought them in, but I definitely think I would have put Smeargle over Toxicroak to adjust.
Really?
Yeah, because I know it sounds a bit odd, and it does make me weaker to Kyogre. And of course, now you're saying you might have not brought in Kyogre, but I think the reason I would have done it is even if you did bring Kyogre, my goal would have been to get the Geomancy set up so that even if you did have Kyogre, I would have a boost up, so that no matter if you had Tailwind or not, my support and cast, what they should be doing is not stopping the Kyogre, but stopping the Kartana from attacking my Xerneas in the endgame.
I could see it. My thought process was, again, I probably wouldn't bring Kyogre. I'm not sure which of the 4 I would bring. Like, I know I would bring Xerneas, Incineroar, and Kartana for sure. The last one's a toss-up between Tornadus or my Amoonguss. But I think overall, like, I think it would have definitely been an interesting set. Because it would have been Protected Deer versus Protected Deer, and like whose tools are gonna be able to, like, I think it's basically calling the switches on the opposing parts, because like you could potentially Lovely Kiss, I could taunt if I do bring the Tornadus, Kartana can threaten a powerful Smart Strike to put you in Dazzling Gleam range. It would have been really interesting, I think, overall.
Oh yeah, the last game would have been really good. I think it would have been kind of dumb, because I feel like it would have come down to me potentially hitting like some Lovely Kisses or getting Moody.
Yeah.
Not like come down to, but like, if stuff happens. So it may have been a little less clean than the first 2 games were, but it still would have been a fine game.
Yeah. But I really do want to thank Ashton for coming out and sharing his thoughts on the finals, doing this analysis for me. I think I learned a lot, and I hope everyone here understands our thought process during this match. Again, I don't think this is like the optimal way to play the mirror. Like, I don't think both of us played like the best against this mirror. I think it was more like, instead of team versus team once again, I think it was player versus player, because I think me and Ashton were like more focused on reading each other than what to actually do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this thought process. I really am thankful for having Ashton on the channel, and
Yeah, no problem.
Give me his
It's great.
thought process. Yeah. Hopefully he'll come out to do some other stuff. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a rematch or something. I don't know. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought about this match. Like if you watched it on Twitch, who you were rooting for, etc., etc., as well as what you would want to see us do potentially, because me and Ashton have like options.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely down to do a ton of stuff in the future.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments down below. Feel free to check out Ashton's stuff. I'll link his stuff down below, including a thing he's trying to do. Would you like to explain that right now, or
Yeah, I can give a little preview. I mean, basically, me and Jeremy are in the process of working on a channel that we've called VGC Academy, and we are yet to basically we haven't really kicked it off yet. We've put out a couple just test videos really that are us messing with stuff like sound and video editing and whatnot. But in the future, we hope to have videos and stuff and a website and stuff that will be entailing like basically the basics of VGC and how to get into stuff. And we haven't really worked out all of the specifics yet, but I think it'll be really cool once we start it working.
yeah, so you can definitely go check them out. I'll link everyone in the description down below. So if you do want to go, make sure you go subscribe there, because Jeremy and Ashton, definitely some of the smartest minds in VGC, I think, especially with their dominant performance lately. I think they're both really incredible players. Definitely go check them out. Otherwise, you can check out everything else down below. And yeah, if you do, again, want to see the match live, you can go check it out. Like, I'll link the match down below if you do want to go check it out. And if you do want to check out the rest of the international action, like I will link the VODs down below. But otherwise, any last words, Ashton?
Nope, thanks for having me on. Hopefully we can get a rematch soon.
Yeah, maybe at Roanoke. That's coming up in a few days if I decide to go. So thank you so much for Ashton to come out. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, which is when this video is going up. Hopefully you're not doing it over on the carbs and all the calories. But yeah, I hope you can sit back, relax, and if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you're just having a wonderful day in general. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day, people. Until we battle again, I'll catch y'all later.
See ya.